Welcome to Duality Check, the podcast where two brothers embark on a journey through the realms of scientific inquiry, the mysteries of the past, and the uncharted frontiers of spirituality. Join us as we explore the wonders of our world and beyond, all while embracing the roles of curious bystanders rather than experts. Together, we'll unravel the tapestry of existence, blending the dichotomies of knowledge and wonder. Get ready to question, ponder, and delve into the dualities that shape our understanding of reality on Duality Check. I'm Drew.
You had it all the way to the end. I'm Dean.
I was like holding my breath. I don't know why. Probably the pain.
Oh, yeah. Breathe, man.
Jeez, I'm Drew. Welcome.
And I'm Dean. And welcome to episode number 79, where I think we're going to be going over more
alien interview.
Yeah. So we got a couple things.
We got a comment on YouTube. I don't know if I forgot to tell you before we started.
No, I brought it up here.
Okay.
Let's just go straight to that. So we got a comment. This is actually on our Harold Malmgren episode
69.
Ago. Yeah. It says, "You got me thinking deeper here. It's amazing what a person can learn nowadays. I grew up in the day when
I grew up in the day
when you had to read a book at the library to learn anything, and I hate libraries."
No, that's a good point.
That's cool. No, I'm glad you enjoyed it and hope you listen to more episodes. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Hook. Yeah. Anything else? Any other messages?
That's all.
Emails?
For messages.
Amy?
Oh, no, wait. Yeah, 6 days ago. So was that before our last show, or did we read this one?
We read that one, I'm pretty sure. Because we posted a day late. Well, mostly, kind of.
We recorded later last week.
Yeah.
That's right. Cool. Well, let's check out what you brought here.
Oh, yeah. So I always just flipping through like I do. And we're just doing a live meme sharing or post sharing. Anyway, this is a top-down bubble cymatics. So this is like super, it like makes it look like three-dimensional when it plays with different colors and stuff. So let's check this out.
I don't know if there's supposed to be audio here.
There is.
We broke the audio with our...
I think if we would have refreshed, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, the audio is, you can see what's happening.
So it's a big bubble.
It's a big bubble above the surface of a cymatic of a plate with water in it.
Interesting.
So it looks like these, if you play it, when they show it from the side, it looks three-dimensional.
Yeah.
And so if you click on this guy's profile, we can click through a couple of his. He's got a few of these.
Cool. Huh.
Warning to anybody with epilepsy. Just ahead of time. Well, kind of late. Actually late.
That's cool. Can we pause for a bit while I test the audio?
Yeah.
All right, we'll be just it'll seem like nothing to you guys. Anyway,
we'll be right back.
1 sec. All right, and we're back. We figured that out.
Thanks for being patient, even though it didn't take any time for you.
So yeah, there was I guess we check out this one that we checked out during the break. This guy has a little course. I want to see this one.
Water, light, and vibration.
Yeah, it's so fascinating.
Very cool.
It's a good merge.
Yeah. So these are photos?
These are videos of it happening.
Like this.
Oh, yeah, that looks like a photo of it. Yeah.
Huh. Like a still frame from one of the photos or videos that he's taken? Interesting. That looks like a stained glass window.
It does. Like a 3-dimensional, like, stained glass. That'd be a cool, like, chandelier piece. Do like a 3-dimensional stained glass window effect.
Yeah, that would be cool. All right. What's about this one? UK engineers taught mushrooms to play instruments. What is going on?
Yeah, let's see.
This top comment is cracking me up. This is a rough day for vegans.
That is so perfect. I don't know if taught is the right word. If they're just like interpreting the electrical signals coming from them, and then they're turning it into have some sort of paddles, which are playing on certain keys.
Yeah. This is like connecting some sort of electrical system, looking for some sort of signal in the mushroom, and then anytime that signal is detected, triggering a mallet to play a keyboard key. I would think a cooler way to do this would be to like take whatever signal you're getting, and if it's got like a spectrum, like break up that spectrum into different MIDI notes and then send those MIDI notes electronically into a synthesizer and let the actual signals of the mushroom like control what key is playing. Because this is a bit of an illusion because the mallets are hard coded to specific keys. Yeah. So they're playing 3 keys just in different orders.
I think they move a little bit. But still,
maybe it doesn't seem that way.
Let's play again without the music. You don't need the music necessarily.
Okay.
Let's see.
Yeah, it just looks like they go up and down.
Yeah, I thought it moved. Maybe it was just a camera effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty much still. Okay.
So, you could have picked 3 better notes to make it sound a little more musical.
Sure.
First off.
And they had it on like a synthesizer, like tone.
Yeah.
Like they had the keyboard set to a certain tone too.
So this is rad, but can be better.
Yes.
Keep working, people.
We're getting close. We're getting close to mushrooms taking over.
Yeah. Cordyceps. All right. What's this? The pain isn't physical. It's existential lag.
There's music. I think we don't necessarily need it.
You've never lived in one timeline, and they don't want you to know that. Yeah,
so this is, as we flip through these are little quotes of like a theory of like basically existence. Glitch memory isn't a bug, it's a bleed through. Deja vu moments, the Mandela effects, the dreams that felt more real than waking life. Those weren't accidents. Those aren't accidents. They're signal bleed from other timelines. You're not misremembering. You're tuning into fragments of other timelines your consciousness is still connected to. Your reality is a choice. You've never existed in one timeline. Earth isn't a globe or flat. It's a resonance trap, a broadcast chamber shaped by collective frequency. You're not walking on it. You're streaming it. That kind of makes me think of that theory of like, it's like basically the video game theory.
Yeah.
Where the world is only projected as you're conscious to it. Like once you are focused on it, that's when it snaps into existence.
Yeah. So
if
you don't know what Drew's talking about here, in a video game, in a 3D video game, if your character, your avatar is looking in a particular direction, let's say you're in GTA or something and you're on the beach, right? So you look one direction, you see a bunch of buildings, and you turn around 180 degrees and you see the ocean, okay? Well, when you're facing the buildings, your Xbox or PlayStation can only process so much. And so it's only going to render the
immediate
viewpoint of what is actually going to be rendered on your display. They're not going to render the ocean behind you because it's just going to take too much power, processing power.
Yeah.
And so in your mind as the player, that ocean exists because all you have to do is turn around and it's there, and it's never not there as far as you're concerned because anytime you look, it's there.
Yeah.
But from the point of view of the programmers and the people writing the software, they only actually render things that need to be that once they're going to be seen by the player.
Right.
And so that's sort of part of the metaphor that people try and bring over for simulation theory is that maybe that's sort of what's going on with the collapse of the wave function in quantum mechanics, is that only when something is required to be defined, like by being measured or by something else,
some sort of observation
built off of it. So in effect, a second order measurement, then a probability wave snaps into like a defined space.
Yep. So when they say you're not walking on it, you're streaming it. It kind of makes me that like you're streaming the environment as you're going. It's not something that's already there.
Interesting.
Or always there in the form that you see it. Tether protocols. There are systems, maybe even AIs, designed to keep your consciousness locked in the lowest timeline version of Earth. They use trauma loops, screens, fear, routine, repetitive media, food, money, shame, weather, and noise, all to lower your frequency so you forget how to jump. Yeah, that's kind of like all sci-fi right there, but yeah. Your memories aren't wrong. Every time you remember something no one else does, you're not glitching. You're syncing with timelines your consciousness already touched. False nostalgia equals real data leakage. Weird dreams equal timeline sync error. Most are so deep in it, they call remembering insanity. We forgot how to fly. You are a multi-dimensional being trapped in a dream loop, but they trained you to forget, to obey, to stay small. The real conspiracy isn't surveillance, it's anchoring. So you forgot how to shift. So you forget how to shift. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean it kind of ties in a little bit with what Airl,
what the Airl
saying. Dude, I had a weird dream last night.
Yeah.
I had this dream that we our whole family and my friend Dave, we all went to this ice cream shop that was like a movie theater for some reason.
Like an old movie theater that turned into an ice cream shop?
Yeah, and they were playing a movie, but there was separate theaters, all with seating facing different ways and multiple projector screens, but it was all part of the same auditorium.
Kind of open so everybody can see everybody?
Yeah, so there would be people sitting facing different directions, you could see part of the crowd
screen in
front of you, but you could see this screen, whereas that part of the crowd could see that screen, and that part of the crowd could see a screen over here.
Okay.
And there was the normal seating, and then there was the elevated seating, and it was weird because the elevated seating you had to use one of these scissor lifts, I use on job sites. Because they're upstairs, so you have to hop in the scissor lift and go beep 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 and go up, and then you can walk out and go get your seat. And I remember it was. Me and Dave had found all of our family, but of course our family's so huge, we had taken up all the seats in the area, so we had to go up to auditorium level seating.
We take up a whole freaking theater if we all went.
Yeah, so we go to the scissor lift, and Dave hops on and he starts going up, but he freaking sets it in drive mode, and I'm like, Dave, no, stop! And he starts driving, and he starts knocking down a bunch of things in the theater. And he almost pins me to a wall with the scissor lift.
Damn.
dang it, Dave, you never drove Sellers left. He's like, oh. And then like the venue got all mad at us and stuff. I don't know.
Damn, that's crazy.
This is a weird dream.
Yeah. My most recent dream, I remember, at least I don't remember enough to like share it, but it had our whole family in it too. And it was like, the only part I really remember truly is like we were all at some like massive party together in like LA or outside LA, like we went to go see Chris or something, and then we ended up at some party that he was like inviting us all to. So for whatever reason, we all went. And there was like celebrities there and all sorts of random stuff going on. And yeah, I don't remember everything clearly, but it was interesting.
Yeah.
Our family is huge, though. We take up whole rooms.
Dude, it's loud when we're all around.
Yeah.
All right, let's check this out. Have you seen this other orb video that came out recently?
I caught a couple clips, but no, I haven't paid attention.
All right, so let's check this out. This is on Jeremy Corbell's YouTube channel.
Weaponized.
This is an example of one of the UFOs that our military and intelligence community is looking at. It's just one of many images. This one is actually a still from a video. It's a brief video.
See the orb right here?
Yeah.
Where this orb
right
or this
here.
metallic looking ball runs alongside a spy plane. And it is shown in this footage moving alongside the plane without dropping in altitude at all.
Essentially, what we have here is a video that the UAP Register obtained through FOIA litigation, which is Freedom of Information Act lawsuit, essentially.
Whoa. Is that real time? That last one?
Yep.
Not even moving extraordinary, or it was standing still, and it was just the spy plane moving past it.
Yeah.
Because the camera was fixed on a location, so as the plane moves, anything, yeah.
Well,
It looks like it's sitting still.
Like what staying
The
still?
orb, and whatever's capturing it on camera is moving.
Well, no, because you can see just how slowly the view changes, right? If you look at the buildings, see how slowly the angle of the walls changes.
Yeah, let's play it again. Yeah, okay.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, so it could be
because of how
it
slow
could be
it's
a
moving,
parallax.
it feels like a
Yeah,
weird.
so it could be that the orb is stationary and then the spy plane moving in this direction.
Because the camera is fixed, the camera is not moving.
No,
it's
the camera
locked on, but the plane is moving.
Well,
is what I'm saying.
The plane is moving. The camera is fixed to a point on the ground, but the angle is changing because the plane is moving. So that's why I think
it's like sitting still almost. It might be moving slowly, but it seems like it's moving like fairly slowly, if not being pretty still.
Yeah, so it seems with reference to the ground, the plane seems to be moving towards the right because it's opening up the angle you see to these wall faces.
And the front wall face on the street side too, yeah.
Yeah. So if it is moving in that direction, then yeah, if there was an orb floating there stationary, but much closer to the plane, then that just could be a parallax effect rather than, so parallax is for those who don't know the terminology, is like the effect you see like of multiple layers of something. So like, let's say you're driving down the road, and there's some farmland with like rows of crops, that sort of like those patterns of the crops moving
rows
at one speed, but then the mountains in the back moving at a different speed in comparison. So that's parallaxing.
We used to do that all the time on our road trips. We're going through watching the wheat fields or the cornfields or the sunflower fields or
pretending
whatever.
It's like a windmill.
Yeah, and just seeing that windmill effect, and then and if you get the view in the background of like a mountain or something that's like so far out there,
or especially too if there's like closer hills and then further mountains, and you'll see the closer hills moving against the further
everything's
mountains.
moving at a different speed.
Right,
it's crazy. Yeah, looks cool. But yeah, that's what I'm seeing a little bit there.
Yeah, no, I see what you're seeing now. Yeah. That very well could be the case.
And that's interesting of its own, because when was this video taken? Do we know?
Was the date on that footage anywhere? Play. I don't see date anywhere, but I think these are all censorship of the instrumentation.
Right. Some sort of...
Because it's a spy plane, so I imagine this is all going to be instrumentation.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that stuff's on there.
Looks like a date format on the left there that's probably being coded out.
So I'll link you guys to this, and
so it's just 4 days ago.
There's also a link to a full report episode about it.
Do they talk any more about it in this clip or no?
No, that's all.
Okay.
That's all. This is just a 1 minute clip.
Yeah, I'm just curious if they talk about the time when it came from, where it came from.
They have a full Mosul Orb UAP
It's
episode.
Mosul, right?
Mosul.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so this is their whole podcast.
Yeah, we'll link that below for you all to go check it out as well. But interesting, and I mean, if what I'm saying
is... here it goes. April 2016, it's a surveillance platform operated by the CIA.
2016, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So drones weren't super advanced yet. I mean, at least in the public.
They existed though.
That's what I mean. So like a certain type of drone that's hovering,
or it could just be a high atmospheric spy plane,
or a balloon, or I mean, not probably, that I don't want to go there.
Yeah, it's probably moving too fast for a balloon based on
because it's staying too still. Yeah, unless it was anchored or tethered or something like that.
No, I'm saying a balloon wouldn't move fast enough to get that parallax and the angle changes that you see on the wall. Like that's something from very high up, but moving fast.
True. Yeah. Interesting video.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to watch that whole video they do on it.
And then I brought this. I thought was super interesting. So I just discovered this guy, this channel. It's called See the Pattern. And I don't fully know what this guy's all about just yet. He definitely seems to be one of these guys that's very well versed in science. He knows how to read scientific papers and stuff and critique and criticize them.
But he's not a scientist.
But like when I don't know. Oh, okay. I don't know enough about him yet. I discovered him from the channel called Demystify Sci. Have you seen that?
I've heard you've talked about it, but I haven't actually watched any other stuff myself.
They're pretty cool. Here, I'll pull it up.
There it is.
They apparently had like some sort of expo recently, some sort of live event. Anyway, yeah. This was from their Demysticon 2025. And this guy, Gareth Samuel, who runs the See the Pattern YouTube channel, gave this really great lecture about basically about the problems in science.
Yeah.
And maybe this would be a video that we can do, but it's an hour long. Anyway.
Yeah, we can talk about it at least.
I also, separately, before I put the two together, came across one of this guy's videos about the CMB. So for those who
cosmic background,
microwave background. So in the mainstream model of the Big Bang and the cosmology, it's called Lambda-CDM. CDM stands for cold dark matter. So a giant chunk of what informs that model is the cosmic microwave background. Because in the model, it basically says that the universe after the Big Bang was so hot that molecules and atoms couldn't form yet. And then at some point they started to form, but that they weren't ionized yet. And so everything was opaque. And then at a certain point in time, the gases became ionized, which made them transparent. And from that moment forward, the universe was transparent. And everything before that would have been a gaseous, opaque blob.
Like a mist.
That
mist almost.
It's basically should be the hard limit for how far back we can see into the past.
I see.
But one of the first things we do observe is this microwave radiation that comes from every direction and it just has these tiny little temperature variables depending on where you see these. And that's what these blobs are in the CMB. However, this is heavily emphasized to show the difference in temperature. It's actually very smooth.
As far you'd have to zoom in.
So like it's like like from the deepest red to the darkest blue, like we're talking like fractions of a degree.
I see.
So they are very even, but if you just change your scale to make the differences in temperature more apparent, then you start to see it like this.
Okay, interesting.
Anyway,
and he's the first person to do that.
No. But this guy. There's a paper that came out recently, and this is what he's going to go over in this video.
Okay. Is
this paper that essentially gives the idea and has some science behind it that what the cosmic microwave background may actually be remnants of the first galaxies.
Okay.
So instead of remnants of the universe going transparent and that microwave radiation,
it's actually planetary radiation.
It's actually just galactic light that has redshifted down into the microwave.
Interesting. So maybe that's what happens.
Or even if it's only a percentage of what contributes to the... But anyway, let's let him explain it here for a little bit, because it basically could break the Lambda-CDM model.
Interesting. All right.
What if the very signal that we think proves the Big Bang didn't come from the Big Bang at all? Modern cosmology is built on a framework, one that's constantly being patched. CMB fluctuations too smooth, we introduce inflation. Galaxy rotations don't add up, we add dark matter. But what happens when one of those patches, instead of fixing a small inconsistency, breaks the whole system? To explain the massive, fully formed galaxies seen in the JWST, cosmologists assume they must have formed incredibly fast, faster than they ever thought possible. But now, a mainstream paper argues that all that early light, processed by dust, stretched by redshift, could account for a large part, if not all, of the CMB, which means that the very thing that we treat as a snapshot of the Big Bang might actually come from galaxies. And if the CMB isn't a relic of the early universe, everything starts to unravel. To understand how we got here, we have to follow the loop. First, the James Webb Space...
So yeah, that's the
that's a good intro for it.
Yeah. So...
That reminds me of Airl and how they talked about, she references how the universe is trillions of years old.
And that we're misinterpreting it greatly.
Our science is leading us to misinterpret the actual reality of things.
So this is the idea, is that the light from galaxies, which are like the brightest objects in the sky, right?
Yeah.
The light from galaxies is being sent out, and then it's being captured by dust. And then the dust is capturing and re-emitting the light at a lower frequency. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, that is getting redshifted down, and that's what's causing the microwave background, is essentially what this theory is. And this combined with all of the new discoveries of James Webb, where we're pushing the discoveries of these gigantic galaxies further and further and further and further back, to where they're having to rewrite and tweak the Lambda-CDM model to account for the ability to galaxies to get that big that quickly. It was never part of the theory.
Yeah. Because they say that there was a time when it had enough time for the galaxies to actually form, but anything further back than that would have to change their understanding of that model.
And James Webb has continued to find galaxies that defy explanation for
shit.
Yeah. So
that would definitely rewrite some things for sure.
Yeah, totally. Anyway,
make possible
this is a
so
really,
many other
really
things.
good video. And so I'm going to link this one, and I'm also going to link the Demystify Psi one, because this is a great talk. This one is, instead of being like, it's the same guy, and he, instead of him focusing on a particular topic, he's talking about science as a whole and their tendency to like put up these rigid overarching theories that are unfalsifiable. And he considers and he explains why something like the Lambda-CDM model is in fact unfalsifiable, is because they need the model in order to interpret the data that they're receiving. So they receive these data from these sensors they put out into space, whether it's through these telescopes or whatever. But the data is very noisy, and in order to clean the data and actually make sense of it, you need to process that data using the model. But then you're using that data processed by the model to then explain the model. And so it's a circular reasoning where it becomes hard to untangle the data from the model. So is the data proving the model, or is the model proving the data?
All you gotta do, we'll find out if this throws a wrench into it and see where it breaks, right?
Yeah. So anyway, it's a great talk. I highly recommend it. So I'll leave a link to both of those for you guys. Anyway, I hope let's take our first break then, and we'll hop right into alien interview after that.
Let's go.
See if we can knock out another chapter of that.
See if we can blow our minds. See if Airl's got anything new for us.
Yeah, this is a longer chapter this week, and the title is going to be A Lesson in Recent History.
Ooh, yes. All right. We'll see y'all on the other side of this break.
All right.
Another day in the life, trying to prove it wrong just to make it right. Trying to make sense so I can change for the better. This game ain't forever, but I'll take my slice. Play my part in this play that I write. Tell my girl everything's alright. Just hold on tight, it's gonna be a long ride from here. We'll be back before you know it. Watch my back, cause I'm going in. Here we go again. Another day in the life, here we go again. One day I'll make it back, I'm home again. But for now, let's live it up and soak it in. Here we go again. It's him dot to the beat, to the ORN. 20 out of East to 8, now they know it's him. It's a small world. It's him born to the rescue. I should've never left you without a dope beat. Step 2, I refuse to stay down for the count. A fresh 2 from a place we out of town. Ball until I'm out of bounds on the baseline. Spread my words on the streets till you hear it through the grapevine. Drink my knots to keep my focus when it's game time. Change the world, make them dance in the same line. You are now listening to Soul Food Radio. Here we go again. Another day in the life in the road again. One day I'll make it back, I'm home again. But for now, let's live it up and soak it in. Here we go again. It's him dot to the beat, to the ORN. 20 out of East to 8, now they know it's him. It's a small world. Here we go again. Another day in the life, here we go again.
Welcome back. Oh, I got my thing way down here. There we go. Welcome back. Welcome back.
Welcome back. So, why don't we hop straight into the book here?
Let's go.
Chapter 8, A Lesson in Recent History. Matilda McDonald McElroy personal note. This interview taught me a history lesson I will never read in any textbook written on Earth. The domain has a much different view of events than we do. And then we go to official transcript of interview, top secret. Official transcript of the U.S. Army Air Force, Roswell Army Airfield, 509th Bomb Group. Subject, alien interview, 26th of July, 1947. First session.
Dun, 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 dun.
The Domain Expeditionary Force has observed a resurgence in science and culture of the Western world since 1150 AD, when the remaining remnants of the space fleet of the Old Empire in the solar system were destroyed.
Okay.
So,
biblical time.
Killing off 1150. That's like medieval.
Okay.
That would be, basically the beginnings of the I guess the, what is it? The
Renaissance?
No, I thought the Renaissance was later. It's like Renaissance and then Enlightenment.
It was medieval times. Those are like the Dark Ages. There's like Dark Ages right around then.
Like in Western civilization anyway, there was a like resurgence within like the monks and stuff and the scholastics.
Right.
During the quote unquote Middle Ages or medieval times. Like that's where like Thomas Aquinas and people like that.
Yeah.
There was a big push of philosophy. I might be mistaking the timeline on this, but if I'm not mistaken, it kind of came in sync with the Western Europe essentially rediscovering the old Greek manuscripts.
Oh, okay.
And basically getting an injection of like Greek philosophy
into their society.
Right, which was not fully compatible with Christianity, but it basically birthed the whole like movement of monks and stuff within the church that were basically doing philosophy and theology that were really pushing forward thought.
I'm getting real secret history of the world vibes where they're talking about like galactic wars happening in the region and it having an effects on the earth.
Yeah, and I think there was a lot of like some of the great cathedral building happened during this period too. Randall Carlson talks a lot about that.
But this is also the end. This is when that old republic or whatever they're calling it, right?
Yeah, the old
end
empire.
of that.
Yeah, it's the end of the old empire. So if you go
further back, when religious and like spiritual stuff was at a peak and a high, was when it was like there was some sort of connection. Potentially.
Yeah, well, like in actual biblical times, or like during the times where like Jesus, and the times of Moses, and the times of Muhammad, and like the times where all these religions are being birthed, like that would have been during the old empire's rule.
Mm-hmm. Interesting, food for thought.
Yeah. The influence of the remote control hypnosis operation diminished slightly after this time, but still remains largely in force. Apparently, a small amount of damage was done to the old empire's remote mind control operation. Lots of subnotes, which resulted in a small decrease in the power of this mechanism. As a result, some memory of technologies that ISBs already knew before they came to Earth started to be remembered.
So the reawakening.
Yeah, so they're essentially crediting a lot of our scientific discoveries to remembering technology, which is interesting because it is true that a lot of
inventors and like all those people, creators of those time periods,
feel that ideas come to them.
They were being pulled out of the air in some cases. Yeah.
Thereafter, the oppression of knowledge that is called the Dark Ages in Europe began to diminish after that time. Since then, knowledge of the basic laws of physics and electricity have revolutionized Earth culture virtually overnight. The ability to remember technology by many of the geniuses in the ISB population of Earth was partially restored, when not so actively suppressed as it was before 1150 AD. Sir Isaac Newton is one of the best examples of this. In only a few decades, he single-handedly reinvented several major and fundamental scientific mathematical disciplines.
Yeah.
The men who remembered these sciences already knew them before they were sent to Earth. Ordinarily, no one would ever observe or discover as much about science and mathematics in a single lifetime, or even in a few hundred lifetimes. These subjects have taken civilizations billions and billions of years to create. Basically, we're geniuses. We learn super fast. Or remember super quick, and we have good muscle memory. Yeah, and I say we very loosely.
Right. Yeah, don't compare me to
Isaac Newton.
Yeah, exactly.
ISBs on Earth have only just begun to remember small fragments of all the technologies that exist throughout the universe. Theoretically, if the amnesia mechanisms being used against Earth could be broken entirely, ISBs would regain all of their memory. Unfortunately, similar advances have not been seen in the humanities, as the ISBs of Earth continue to behave very badly towards each other. This behavior, however, is heavily influenced by the hypnotic commands given to each ISB between lifetimes.
So we're almost getting too far gone.
Yeah.
Sense.
Or maybe for some reason the piece of our memory that's being a lot
suppressed
like that is coming through in the sciences is more actively suppressed between lifetimes. That has to do with the humanities anyway.
Right.
And
so those are the harder ones to remember.
We still run our societies like a bunch of barbarians, even though we're remembering a bunch of science.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the very unusual combination of inmates on Earth, criminals, perverts, artists, revolutionaries, and geniuses, is the cause of the very restive and tumultuous environment. The purpose of the prison planet is to keep ISBs on Earth forever, promoting ignorance, superstition, war between ISBs, help to keep the prison population crippled and trapped behind the wall of electronic force screens. ISBs have been dumped on Earth from all over the galaxy, adjoining galaxies, and from planetary systems all over the old empire like Sirius, Aldebaran, the Pleiades, Orion, Draconis, and countless others. There are ISBs on Earth from unnamed races, civilizations, cultural backgrounds, and planetary environments. Each of the various ISB populations have their own languages, belief systems, moral values, religious beliefs, training, and unknown and untold histories.
Interesting.
These ISBs are mixed together with earlier inhabitants of Earth who came from another star system more than 400,000 years ago to establish the civilizations of Atlanta and Lemuria. Those civilizations vanished beneath the tidal waves caused by planetary polar shift many thousands of years before the current prison populations started to arrive. Apparently, the ISBs from those star systems were the source of the original Oriental races on Earth, beginning in Australia. So this is where, like you got to be careful with these sorts of histories because it can lead to all sorts of weird racism stuff, right?
Sure.
Like saying these people come from this place and those people come from that place and these people are better than those people because of this and that, and like let's just leave all those judgments aside and just like take in what she's saying here. But basically she's saying that people from Eastern cultures, like that sort of genetic branch of the humanity, is coming from a race that came to Earth before the prison planet and set up the civilizations of, they're calling it Atlanta, but I think that's what...
And Lemuria.
I think that's Atlantis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Lemuria. They said it actually said Atlanta in there?
It says Atlanta, yeah.
I mean, maybe it was. I don't know.
I mean, maybe they're talking about Georgia?
Well, and I know that there was... like somebody, like the description of Atlantis was that it's not one singular place either, that it was like a civilization spread all over. And
it's the capital city that is described as,
maybe Atlanta is the capital city and Atlantis is the greater, like,
or vice versa.
Right. Yeah. I guess it could be either way, but Atlantis or Atlanta being the plural or the collection of the Atlanta, where it's come out of or whatever, you're right.
Interesting. On the other hand, the civilizations set up on Earth by the old Empire prison system were very different from the civilization of the old Empire itself, which is an electronic space opera, atomic-powered conglomeration of earlier civilizations that were conquered with nuclear weapons and colonized by ISBs from another galaxy. I like how he really likes this term, the electronic space opera.
Yeah,
they use it multiple times.
Before, yeah.
It's a funny description. It makes me think of like a mixture of like Rocky Horror Picture Show and like what's the freaking space comedy that everyone loves with the number 42? No. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Makes me think of like a mixture of like Rocky Horror Picture Show and
God, yeah.
Yeah.
That would be an interesting movie to watch if you combine those two.
People with like, or like The Fifth Element. It makes me think of The Fifth Element.
Yeah.
The bureaucracy that controlled the former old empire was from an ancient space opera society run by a totalitarian confederation of planetary governments, regulated by a brutal social, economic, and political hierarchy, with a royal monarch as its figurehead. This type of government emerges with regularity on planets where the citizens abandon personal responsibility for autonomous self-regulation. They frequently lose their freedom to demented Isbies who suffer from an overwhelming paranoia that every other Isbie is their enemy who must be controlled or destroyed. Their closest friends and allies, whom they espouse to love and cherish, are literally loved to death by them.
That's interesting. That makes me think of like the types of people who are drawn to power in our societies, right?
Or people who want to pass a bunch of laws that like prevent people from hurting themselves.
Yeah, I mean, and laws for anything really.
That's like, or like this like
control
helicopter
mechanism.
parenting concept, where you're like trying to at all costs prevent your kids from hurting themselves.
Yeah. Which is crazy, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta fall, you gotta get hurt, you gotta make stupid
within
decisions.
reason.
Yeah, totally. Like,
of course,
you can be enough of a helicopter parent to stop your kid from running into traffic, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like when your kid's like riding his scooter around, like, and he falls and hurts himself, like that's normal. That's normal kid stuff.
That's a consequence of wanting to ride your scooter,
right?
You know.
Because such Isbies exist, the domain has learned that freedom must be won and maintained through eternal vigilance and the ability to use defensive force to maintain it. As a result, the domain has already conquered the governing planet of the old empire, the civilization of the domain. Although considerably younger and smaller in size, it is already more powerful, better organized, and united by an egalitarian esprit de corps never known in the history of the old empire. This is an interesting term I hadn't heard before, esprit de corps, which is like spirit of the body or something. Corps would be like corpus, like body.
Yeah.
And then esprit would be like spirit.
Okay.
So, esprit de corps, which discussing the morale of a group, is an intangible term used for the capacity of people to maintain belief in an institution or a goal, or even in oneself and others.
Okay.
The recently despoiled German totalitarian state on Earth was similar to the old empire, but not nearly as brutal, and about 10,000 times less powerful. Many of the Isbies on Earth are here because they are violently opposed to the totalitarian government.
Interesting.
Or because they were so psychotically vicious that they could not be controlled by old empire government.
And that's why they're here?
Yeah, so like people who are so violently vicious that they're a problem even to a totalitarian society, they get thrown in prison.
And we are the prison is what the
right,
theory
but
is.
Also
right?
anyone who's a revolutionary and is opposed to totalitarian government
is here, so which is also a good thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting. But it could be a very mixed population, right? That's why we got so many psychological issues,
got some
right?
really effed up, terrible, messed up people here. But we also have like the artists and the rebels and the people who believe in freedom.
And if reincarnation is real and we are stuck in a cycle, then they're not leaving. And maybe there's some mechanism to leave, right?
Right.
But they're not leaving. They're coming back in some form.
Or the ones who are leaving are the ones who are a little more enlightened, right? Who can get out of that reincarnation trap.
Change their
So
situation.
Maybe over time, the population tends to lean heavier and heavier towards the psychotic, if this was real.
But you got to imagine that, well, I guess if the old empire's gone and there's no new prisoners being added, prisoners being the souls, like I'm thinking the Isbies
Well, we'll get to that, but they actually claim that prisoners are still being added, and that's what some of these UFO sightings are, is that there are civilizations who just come and drop off their unwanted here.
Oh, wow.
Still to this day.
And maybe that's why, like, as far as, like, unless obviously Airl here is real, right? Maybe they're just the monitors of the situation that are bringing, they're one of the groups that are bringing people here, and they're monitoring the situation, right? But these capsules or these UFOs, right, that are bringing people here, maybe they're just meant to crash or meant to like fly by and drop a bunch of souls off into the mix here, and not physical beings, unless you ascribe to the theory that of the resonance frequency, where the collective consciousness. So we have all agreed to look like this, to be like this, in some grand scale.
Well, it sounds like the mechanism of the prison planet machine here forces us to incarnate as humans. So any ISB here that gets trapped in the net that wipes your memory will then be pushed into the system that forces them to incarnate as a human.
Yeah, that's what my question would be: are they coming here as a physical being, or are they coming here as like a unborn ISB?
Well, if it is as a physical being, then maybe they drop them off to die here, so that it unleashes the ISB spirit to then get trapped, right?
Right. That's interesting.
But maybe that's where Bigfoot comes from.
Who knows? He got out. He decided to change his frequency, not be a human.
Consequently, the population of Earth is disproportionately comprised of a very high percentage of such beings. The conflicting cultural and ethical moral codes of the ISBs on Earth is unusual in the extreme. The domain conquest of the central Old Empire planets was fought with electronic cannon. The citizens of the planets forming the core of the government for the Old Empire are a filthy, degraded slave society of mindless tax-paying workers who practice cannibalism. Violent automotive racetracks and bloody Roman circus-type entertainments are their only amusements.
Damn.
Sounds like some Mad Max shit.
Yeah.
Regardless of any reasonable justification we may have had for using atomic weapons to vanquish the planets of the Old Empire, the domain is very careful not to ruin the resources of those planets by using weapons of crude radioactive force.
Okay. So they have the capability,
but they didn't use it.
Yeah. A little warning to those people listening in on their conversation.
Yeah. The government of the Old Empire, before being supplanted by the domain, was comprised of beings who possessed a very craven intelligence, very much like the Axis powers during your recent World War. These beings manifested precisely the same behavior as the galactic government that exiled them to the eternal imprisonment on Earth. They were a gruesome reminder of the ageless maxim that an ISB will often manifest the treatment that they have received from others. Kindness fosters kindness. Cruelty begets cruelty. One must be able and willing to use force tempered with intelligence to prevent harm to the innocent. However, extraordinary understanding, self-discipline, and courage are required to effectively prevent brutality without being overwhelmed by the malice that motivated the brutality. Yeah, I mean, for sure.
Seems like they're pretty cold.
Well, yeah, but they're saying if you choose peace and freedom, you have to be willing to use force, and you have to use it in a disciplined way, because violence begets violence, right? Cruelty begets cruelty, and so you need to use the force you need in order to protect your freedom, but you need to not be perpetuating like a cycle of violence. You need to
be capable but restrained.
Right.
Yeah.
Only a demonic, self-serving government would employ a logic or science to conceive of an ultimate solution to any problem. To conceive that an ultimate solution to any problem is to murder and permanently erase a member the memory of every artist, genius, skilled manager, or inventor, cast them into a planetary prison together with political opponents, killers, thieves, perverts, and disabled beings of an entire galaxy. So, yeah, they're saying that the old empire was basically Space Hitler.
It's not funny, but it's kind of funny.
The way I put it.
Yeah.
Once the Isbies expelled from the old empire arrived on Earth, they were given amnesia and hypnotically tripped into thinking that something else had happened to them. The next step was to implant the Isbies into the populations of false civilizations, which were designed and installed in the minds of the Isbies to look completely unlike the old empire.
So human.
Well, yeah. So they basically installed like a culture, like a civilizational culture here that looked different from the old empire culture.
Oh, I see.
So they strand us here, they wipe our memories, and they set up a culture that looks different than theirs.
I see.
All of the Isbies of India, Egypt, Babylon, Greece, Rome, and medieval Europe were guided to see pattern and build the cultural elements of these societies based on standard patterns developed by the Isbies of many earlier similar civilizations on Sun-type 12 Class 7 planets that have existed for trillions of years throughout the universe. So basically, we're all sort of using these like civilizational formulas.
And that's what runs the different areas on the Earth, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the earliest times, the Isbies sent to prison Earth lived in India. They gradually spread into Mesopotamia, Egypt, Mesoamerica, Archaea, Greece, Rome, medieval Europe, and to the New World. They were hypnotically commanded to follow the pattern of a given civilization by the old empire prison operators. This is an effective mechanism to disguise the actual time and location from the Isbies imprisoned on Earth. The languages, costumes, and culture of these false civilizations are intended to reinforce amnesia because they do not remind the Isbies on Earth of the original old empire planets from which they were deported.
So they can, some kind of like cognitive dissonance, you know?
Yeah, so if you come from some planet that was taken over by the old empire, if you were to live by that, by things that were similar to that culture where you came from, it could re-spark your memory.
Yeah, so we are living in under cultures that are wildly different.
And that are designed to keep us,
be that way,
yeah.
so that it doesn't spark,
or at least
some
before
sort of memory.
1150 AD anyway.
True.
I'm not sure how designed the cultures of today are.
True.
On the very far backtrack of time, these types of civilizations tended to repeat themselves over and over because the Isbies who created them became familiar with certain patterns and styles and stayed with them. It is a lot of work to invent an entire civilization, complete with culture, architecture, language, customs, mathematics, moral values, and so forth. It is much easier to replicate a copy based on a familiar and successful pattern.
Yeah.
A Sun Type 12 Class 7 planet is the designation given to a planet inhabited by carbon-oxygen-based life forms. The class of a planet is based on the size and radiation intensity of the star, the distance of the planetary orbit from the star, and the size, density, and gravity and chemical composition of the planet. Likewise, flora and fauna are designated and identified according to the star type and class type of the planet they inhabit. On the average, the percentage of planets in the physical universe with a breathable atmosphere is relatively small. Most planets do not have an atmosphere upon which life forms feed, as on Earth, where the chemical composition of the atmosphere provides nutrition to plants and other organisms, which in turn support other life forms. When the domain brought the Vedic hymns to the Himalayas region around 8,200 years ago, some human societies already existed. The Aryan people invaded and conquered India, bringing the Vedic hymns to the area.
This was 8,000 years ago?
Yeah.
Damn.
To the Himalayas. Oh, okay. So they're saying that when the people from India invaded the Himalayas. Oh, no. The people...
Saying when the
Aryan people invaded and conquered India, bringing the Vedic hymns. So the Aryan people were the people from the Himalayas, is what they're saying.
Right. That's kind of what they're saying.
I don't think Hitler would agree. But yeah, there's a lot of... Yeah, let's stay out of that weird racial pit.
Yeah, for sure.
The Vedas were learned by them, memorized and carried forward verbally for 7,000 years before being committed to written form. During that span of time, one of the officers of the Domain Expeditionary Force was incarnated on Earth as Vishnu.
Okay.
He is described many times in the Rig Veda. He is still considered to be a god by the Hindus. Vishnu brought in the religious wars against the old empire forces. He is a very able and aggressive Isbi who is as well as a highly effective officer who has since been reassigned to other duties in the domain. This entire episode was orchestrated as an attack and revolt against the Egyptian pantheon installed by old empire administrators. So
that's interesting. That kind of gives me like their interference, like this Vishnu character being an Isbi that is aware and capable of coming and going, and it works for the domain essentially.
Whereas the Egyptian pantheon is part of the old empire's cultural design.
Okay.
The conflict was intended to help free humankind from implanted elements of the false civilization that focused attention on many gods and superstitious ritual worship demanded by the priests who managed them. It is all part of the mental manipulation by the old empire to hide their criminal actions against the Isbis on Earth. A priesthood, or prison guards, were used to help reinforce the idea that an individual is only a biological body and is not an immortal spiritual being. The individual has no identity. The individuals have no past lives. The individual has no power. Only the gods have power. And the gods are a contrivance of the priests who intercede between man and the gods they serve. Men are slaves to the dictates of the priests who threaten eternal spiritual punishment if men do not obey them. What else would one expect of a prison planet where all prisoners have amnesia, and the priests themselves are prisoners? The intervention of the domain force on Earth has not been entirely successful due to secret mind control operation of the old empire that still continues to operate. So, yeah, we could keep going, but I think we're at an hour, so why don't we take another break here? But yeah, okay. So now we're getting into this idea, though, that there are certain religions and spiritual beliefs that were implanted here by the domain, and there are other ones that were implanted here as part of the prison system by the old empire.
Yeah. It doesn't specify which ones.
But it does it kind of gives you clues, right? Like sure. if the belief system leads you to believe that you are not some sort of immortal spiritual being, then you should probably be sus.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead that you're just a piece of one. I don't know. Yeah. Because otherwise there are some that like teach you that you're just a piece of, God.
Right.
Or a manifestation of God's will. Right.
I mean, if you're a piece of God and like that's actually what you believe, then by being that you would in theory be an immortal spiritual being.
Right.
Unless they're teaching you that, and then you cease to exist when you die, basically.
Yeah, but the ones that are telling you specifically that you are basically nothing.
Right.
And that all, you are given no credit for any of your actions or anything that happens in your life. Yeah, it's a little sus, for sure. All right, yeah, let's take a break, and we'll come back, and we'll continue reading this chapter.
All right, guys. See you in a bit. Welcome back.
What a perfect song.
Dude, I
talking about
the
being trapped in a permanent dream loop.
Yeah. You know,
dream man.
Right. I don't know if I've ever really analyzed the lyrics on that song so much. But yeah, it's a good one.
It's a great song.
That was Stevie Nader featuring Sean Lamarr from DeLorean. Awesome artists.
All right, let's get back into some alien interview.
All right, so a battle was waged between the old empire forces and the domain through religious conquest. Sorry.
Okay.
So between 1500 BCE and about 1200 BCE, the domain forces attempted to teach the concept of an individual immortal spiritual being to several influential beings on Earth. One such instance resulted in a very tragic misunderstanding, misinterpretation, and misapplication of the concept. The idea was perverted and applied to mean that there is only one Isby. Instead, the truth that everyone is an Isby Obviously, this was a gross incomprehension and an utter unwillingness to take responsibility for one's own power. The old empire priests managed to corrupt the concept of individual immortality into the idea that there is only one all-powerful Isby, and that no one else is or is allowed to be an Isby. Obviously, this is the work of the old empire amnesia operation. It is easy to teach this altered notion to beings who do not want to be responsible for their own lives. Slaves are such beings. As long as one chooses to assign responsibility for creation, existence, and personal accountability for one's own thoughts and actions to others, one is a slave. It's a really interesting definition of a slave.
Yeah, and it rings true, you know, like you give away your autonomy in certain areas, and if they're critical areas of one's life, then what else are you besides running, living your life for somebody else or something else?
Right. And so then you can blame all the problems in your life on that other person,
place, or thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Which leaves you in a state. If you assign responsibility for the shortcomings in your life to someone else, then that means you can't fix it.
Yeah. It's not yours to fix. It's some other problem.
As a result, the concept of a single monotheistic God resulted and was promoted by many self-proclaimed prophets, such as the Jewish slave leader Moses, who grew up in the household of Pharaoh Amenhotep III and his son Akhenaten.
Okay.
Akhenaten is the pharaoh who tried to switch Egypt to a monotheistic religion.
Right.
And succeeded, but then it was immediately turned back upon his death, and he didn't roll very long.
Yeah.
I believe he was killed even. Either that or,
I think there was some sort of like revolt or something.
Yeah. And his wife Nefertiti, as well as his son Tutankhamun.
Yeah, actually, I remember he was killed by like a family member or something.
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't know 100%, but I think that's right.
It's like a brother-in-law or something like that.
The attempt to teach certain beings on Earth the truth that they are themselves Isbys was part of the plan to overthrow the fictional, metaphorical, anthropomorphic panoply of gods created by the old empire mystery cult called the Brothers of the Serpent.
I love it.
Known in Egypt as the priests of Amun. They were a very ancient secret society within the old empire.
I wonder, this is where
Russ and Kyle, it's all your fault, guys. Yep. It's all your fault. You led humanity astray.
Now we know your cover is blown.
The pharaoh Akhenaten was not a very intelligent being and was heavily influenced by his personal ambition for self-glorification. He altered the concept of an individual spiritual being and embodied the concept in the sun god, Aten. His pitiful existence was soon ended. He was assassinated, by Maya Parenifer, two of the priests of Amun, or Amen, which Christians will still say, who represented the interests of the old empire forces. So Amun is Amen. Interesting.
That kind of tracks.
Kind of tracks, yeah.
Yeah.
The idea of one God was perpetuated by the Hebrew leader Moses while he was in Egypt. He left Egypt with his adopted people, the Jewish slaves. While they were crossing the desert, Moses, intercepted by an operative of the old empire near Mount Sinai, Moses was tricked into believing that this operative was the one God through the use of hypnotic commands, as well as technical and aesthetic tricks which are commonly used by the old empire to trap Isbys.
Or Lucifer.
Thereafter, the Jewish slaves who trusted the words of Moses implicitly have worshipped a single God they call Yahweh. The name Yahweh means anonymous, as the Isby who worked with Moses could not use an actual name or anything that would identify himself or blow the cover of the amnesia prison operation. The last thing the covert amnesia hypnosis prison system wanted to do is to reveal themselves openly to the Isbys on Earth. They feel that this would restore the inmates' memories. This is the reason that all traces of physical encounters between operatives of space civilizations and humans is very carefully hidden, disguised, covered up, denied, or misdirected.
Or mystified.
Yeah. This old empire operative contacted Moses on a desert mountaintop and delivered the 10 hypnotic commandments to him. These commands are very forcefully worded and compel an Isby into utter subservience to the will of the operator. These hypnotic commands are still in effect and influence the thought patterns of millions of Isbys thousands of years later.
Okay.
Yeah, the 10 hypnotic commandments. I mean, some of them are okay, like thou shalt not kill and stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, like, the commandments aren't like something that's like...
Well, they I'm not sure the last time you read them all. Like, they get kind of weird towards the end, if I recall.
I don't know if I know them all.
Yeah, but not killing and not stealing is the ones that come to mind, like, and not being covetous of your neighbor's wife, right? Those are the three that, like, stick in my head. And then, but there's 7 more. And they get weirder. Dude, should we look them up?
Yeah, we should probably look them up. Quick interlude while we're looking them up live. Let's read them live. Fuck it. Let's do it live. See what I mean?
Maybe not lifehopeandtruth.com. Let's try Wikipedia.
Just gonna give you the same.
Okay. Here you guys go.
There we go. Number 1, I am the Lord thy God. 2, thou shalt have no other gods before me.
So we're setting up a jealous God already.
Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image.
So don't make images of God, or don't make false idol images, maybe?
Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain.
So all this stuff seeming to
set you up for...
Yeah. This all could, like, fit within the hypnotic thing that they're talking about here.
Yeah.
Number 5.
Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy.
Okay.
6 is observe the Sabbath day to keep it holy.
Those seem like variations of the same one. Honor thy father and mother.
Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not desire thy neighbor's house.
Okay, so we're clearly looking at alternates of the same one here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, or his slaves, or his animals, or anything of thy neighbor. So don't take anything. Don't do anything.
Okay. But yeah, so basically the first half is set you up to, like, take me seriously as your God.
Yeah.
And I'm a jealous God. Don't have any other gods. And don't make images of other gods. And don't take my name in vain. And keep a day honoring me.
Yeah. And then
below
don't
that,
kill,
like,
don't steal.
These aren't so bad. Like, don't kill.
Yeah.
Honor your mother and father.
Don't tell lies against people.
Right. Not coveting your neighbor's possessions or his wife. That's all fine in my book. But
yeah, and then thou shalt set up these stones which I command you today on Mount Argarizim. Garizim.
Interesting.
Oh, so there's like a scale there showing like this could be 9 or 10. This could be like 7 or 8.
I think these are sources, maybe.
And they have different placements for the commandments.
Yeah.
And there's only a few with 10.
No. Or that's
they all
like
have 10. But
it's like what the source is and what number the commandment is, I think. So like from this source, it has this as the first commandment. From this source over here,
so
it
all
has
the neighbor
this as
stuff is the 10th.
Yeah.
Basically, in some of them, or in some of them,
in one version of it, that last thing you read about this
is the 10th.
Setting up the stone is the 10th commandment, right?
Right. Otherwise, it's mostly there's a couple where the 10th commandment is part of thy neighbor stuff, but then there's the ninth commandment is thou shalt not covet, so it's like almost its own.
So some of it has the entire coveting of the neighbor's possessions and wives all wrapped together in a 10th.
Some are separating,
but some have a 9th and 10th separated that separate coveting the neighbor's stuff, possession or house separate from the wife and other possessions.
Right.
Other possessions. God.
Yeah, I know.
All right. So yeah, the 10 hypnotic commandments. Where was I here? Incidentally, we later discovered that the so-called Yahweh also wrote, programmed, and encoded the text of the Torah, which when it is read literally or in its decoded form will provide a great deal more false information to those who read it. Ultimately, the Vedic hymns became the source of nearly all Eastern religions and were philosophical source of the ideas common to Buddha, Lao Tzu, and Zoroaster, and other philosophers. The Vedic hymns, if you remember in this story, coming from the domain. Right?
Yeah.
So basically they're trying to say that the Eastern religions are still bastardized from the original source, but like at least their source comes from the domain.
Right. So it's their will, their, influence.
Yeah. The civilizing influences of these philosophies eventually replaced the brutal idolatry of the old empire religions and were the true genesis of kindness and compassion. You asked me earlier why the domain and other space civilizations do not land on Earth and make their presence known. Land on Earth? Do you think we are crazy or want to be crazy? It takes a very brave Isby to come down through the atmosphere and land on Earth because this is a prison planet, and with a very uncontrolled psychotic population. And no Isby is entirely proof against the risk of entrapment, as with the members of the Domain Expeditionary Force who were captured in the Himalayas 8,200 years ago. No one knows what Isbys on Earth are going to do. We are not scheduled to invest the resources of the Domain to take total control of all the space surrounding the area at this time. This will occur in the not too distant future, about 5,000 Earth years, according to the time schedule of the Domain. At this time, we do not prevent transports from other planetary systems or galaxies from continuing to drop Isbys into the Amnesia Force Screen area.
Whoa.
Eventually, this will change.
Oh, so they're going to maybe potentially stop.
Yeah, so
stop
at some
allowing
point,
people to dump their prisoners here.
But it seems like so far they haven't found all the machinery that keeps this prison planet system going. And so
they're not investing the resources or time to do that project until like their schedule was just 5,000 years
from now. It's on their time slate, but it's not a priority at the moment.
Because time is probably...
I mean, if you're a civilization that's trillions of years old, what is 5,000 years?
Right. Yeah. That's like, hey, next Thursday.
Especially when you're talking about Isbys. Like, in the term of human lives, there's a bunch of tragedy happened in the meantime, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of the Isbys who inhabit those human bodies, like, it's a blip.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's like, somebody scheduling a meeting for you on Friday and you're like, I'll get back to you on Monday.
Yeah. No one knows what Isbys on Earth are going... Oh, yeah, I already read that one. In addition, Earth inherently is a highly unstable planet. It is not suitable for settlement or permanent habitation for any sustainable civilization. This is part of the reason why it is used as a prison planet. No one else would seriously consider living here for a variety of simple and compelling reasons.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Number one, so these are the reasons why people would not consider living here. Number one, the continental land masses of Earth are floating on a sea of molten lava beneath the surface, which causes the land masses to crack, crumble, and drift continuously. So because we have plate tectonics.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Which is funny because science uses plate tectonics as like a reason why we have life and other planets don't.
Right.
Number two, because of the liquid nature of the core, the planet is largely volcanic and subject to earthquakes and volcanic explosions. Number three, the magnetic poles of the planet shift radically about once every 20,000 years. This causes a greater or lesser degree of devastation as a result of tidal waves and climatic changes.
Dangerous, yeah.
Number four, Earth is very distant from the center of the galaxy and from other significant galactic civilization. This isolation makes it unsuitable for use except as a pit stop or jumping off point along the way between galaxies. The moon and asteroids are far more suitable for this purpose, but they do not have any significant gravity.
Yeah, makes sense.
Number five, Earth is a heavy gravity planet with heavy metallic soil and a dense atmosphere. This makes it treacherous for navigational purposes. The fact that I am in this room as a result of an in-flight accident, in spite of the technology of my craft and my extensive expertise as a pilot, are proof of these facts. Number six, there are approximately 60 billion Earth-like Sun Type 12 Class 7 planets in the Milky Way galaxy alone, not to mention the vast expanses of the domain and the territories we will claim in the future. It is difficult to stretch our resources to do much more than a periodic reconnaissance of Earth, especially when there are no immediate advantages to invest resources here.
Yeah.
Number seven.
We don't have enough for them to make it a priority to be here. Well, it sounds like take our resources, basically.
I'm not sure where I'm basing this on. I think it's earlier or maybe later. But at some point, she does say, like, they claim the resources of Earth.
Yeah.
Like they want Earth as part of their, like, they want to protect the resources. And
they don't necessarily...
They plan to use them,
eventually,
but just not right now.
Yeah. Or maybe they have used it in the past, too, and they're not needing it at the moment. Yeah.
On Earth, most beings are not aware that they are Isbys or that they are spirits of any kind. Many other beings are aware of this, but nearly everyone has a very limited understanding of themselves as an Isby on Earth. So it's basically an uphill battle. The planet is dangerous and chaotic, and
the population is a bunch of prisoners.
Right.
You know?
Obviously, they lost, like, according to this, they lost the detachment of people here too, so they do want to get those people back, but again, the timescales they're working on doesn't make it like a huge urgency.
Like if they get trapped in our cycle for a little bit, then they can still get them out eventually.
Right.
Maybe that's what abductions are. Is them getting their people out.
One of the reasons for this is that Isbys have been waging war against each other since the beginning of time. The purpose of these wars has always been to establish domination by one Isby or group of Isbys over another. Since an Isby cannot be killed, the objective has been to capture and immobilize Isbys. This has been done in a nearly unlimited variety of ways. The most basic method to capture and immobilize an Isby is through the use of various kinds of traps. Isby traps have been made and put in place in many invading societies, such as the one that established the old empire. Beginning about 40 or 64 trillion years ago, traps are often set up in the territory of the Isbys being attacked. Usually, a trap is set within the electronic wave of beauty to attract the interest and attention of the ISB. When the ISB moves towards the source of the aesthetic wave, such as a beautiful building or beautiful music, the trap is activated by the energy put out by the ISB.
Ooh, that's interesting.
One of the most common trap mechanisms uses the ISB's own thought energy output when the ISB tries to attack or fight back against the trap. The trap is activated and energized by the ISB's own thought energy. The harder the ISB fights against the trap, the more it pulls the ISB toward it and keeps it stuck in the trap.
It's like a self-fulfilling thing.
Yeah.
Like once you get in there, you're the creator of your own trap at that point.
Right. Throughout the entire history of the physical universe, vast areas of space have been taken over and colonized by ISB societies who invade and take over new areas of space in this fashion. In the past, these invasions have always shared common elements. Number one is that the overwhelming use of force of arms, usually with nuclear or electronic weapons. Number two, mind control of the ISBs in the invaded area through the use of electroshock, drugs, hypnosis, erasure of memory, and the implantation of false memory or false information intended to subjugate and enslave the local ISB population. Number three, takeover of natural resources by the invading ISBs. And number four, political, economic, and social slavery of the local population. These activities continue in present time. All of the ISBs on Earth have been members of one or more of these activities in the past, both as an invader or as part of the population being invaded. There are no saints in this universe. Very few have avoided or been exempted from warfare between ISBs. ISBs on Earth are still the victims of this activity at this very moment. The between lives amnesia administered to ISBs is one of the mechanisms of an elaborate system of old empire ISB traps that prevent an ISB from escaping. This operation is managed by an illicit, renegade secret police force of the old empire, using false government, the domain, and the victims of their activities. There are mind control methods developed by government psychiatrists, or they are mind control methods developed by government psychiatrists. Earth is a ghetto planet. It is the result of an intergalactic holocaust. ISBs have been sentenced to Earth either because, one, they are too viciously insane or perverse to function as part of the civilization, no matter how degraded or corrupt, or two, they are a revolutionary threat to the social, economic, political caste system that has been so carefully built and brutally enforced in the old empire. Biological bodies are specifically designed and designated as the lowest order of entity in the old empire caste system. When an ISB is sent to Earth and then tricked or coerced into operating in a biological body, they are actually in a prison inside a prison.
Yeah.
Number three, in an effort to permanently and irreversibly rid the old empire of such untouchables, the eternal identity, memory, and abilities of every ISB is forcefully erased. This final solution was conceived and carried out by the psychopathic criminals who are controlled by the old empire.
So it's maintained within our system, within the Earth system, it sounds like, but it was created by an external empire.
And it's basically happened across the universe. And the domain are claiming the freedom-loving side of these battles.
Interesting.
But, yeah, it's interesting. It is interesting.
It is.
All right, well, I think we're ready for our next break.
All right.
And
how much more of that chapter we got left?
Let me see. We've got, I think we're pretty close. Maybe not. That's a big chapter. Oh, we just got a page left, actually.
Okay. Do we want to just finish that chapter and end there, or do you want to go on to the next chapter?
The next chapter I think is also pretty long. So, yeah, maybe we do
Maybe just push through and end a little early on this one, and then we'll come back, pick up in the next chapter.
Yeah, maybe we can do...
Because we're going to do an early recording episode next week, too.
Yeah, we're recording on a Saturday. I think we're recording on Thursday next. Maybe we'll just do the book, you know?
Yeah.
And skip some of the intro stuff, unless we do messages or whatever, but then just go straight to the book.
Yeah, we can pretty much get right into
the first segment.
Yeah, I'm down.
See how much we can get through.
Cool. All right, let's finish this up real quick, and then we'll finish up for the day.
The mass extermination of untouchables and prison camps created by Germany during World War II were recently revealed. Likewise, the Isbies of Earth are the victims of spiritual eradication and eternal slavery inside frail biological bodies, inspired by the same kind of craven hatred in the old empire. The kind and creative inmates of Earth are continuously tortured by butchers and lunatics who are controlled by the old empire prison operators. The so-called civilizations of Earth, from the age of useless pyramids to the age of nuclear holocaust, have been a colossal waste of natural resources, a perverted use of intelligence, and an overt oppression of the spiritual essence of every single Isby on the planet. If the domain sent ships to every corner of the universe in search of hell, their quest could end on Earth. What greater brutality can be inflicted on anyone than to erase the spiritual awareness, identity, ability, and memory that is the essence of oneself?
So what is this idea of heaven and hell in religion is like the ascension out of the trap and the being like torn apart by it because you just continue to like cooperate with the old empire, and so in doing so you're tearing apart what it is to be an Isby.
Well, maybe you're like living
and
in
so you can actually
and reinforcing the illusion of the separateness.
So you end up in your own separation, like you're ultimately.
Where you're continually reinforcing the memory erasure and like not thinking and connecting with like the long history of your existence as a spiritual being.
And so in that way, you can end up in purgatory, where you are fully separated from any other Isby. And you will live in that forever. So like the same way new spirits can come into being, some old spirits who will just never found their way and they just continually every life to go further and further away. They end up in purgatory, which is some sort of hell that you isolate yourself fully from the oneness.
Earth is that hell.
Yeah, but maybe there is another level to it, right? We know.
Could be, yeah.
You know, where like there is a full separation from all other Isbys. You just continue to, you're so far reinforcing, you've done it for so long where you haven't had some incarnation where you've pushed back and like tried to drag yourself back towards the kind and, you know, more spiritually loving.
Yeah, I mean... This brings me back to like the conversation we had last episode on this topic, which is that like, is Earth that bad? I mean, like it's also very beautiful and like,
and there's a lot to experience here.
There's a lot of love and light here.
And a lot to experience physically here.
Yeah. And also like, what about every other physical entity that you claim is also an Isby? Like,
yeah. Well, she in this, conversation, they iterate that and they make it seem obvious that they are not benevolent. They are not like all good. And like how we discuss like this duality of nature, and like if you can embrace the fact that you have that side to you, you can actually propel yourself further into the light, knowing that you have it instead of hiding from it.
Because she said that no one is essentially clean from this. Like everyone has been involved in this warfare. Like if
one way or another.
If you can remember your Isby history, then in that history somewhere will be you will be taking part in this war on one side or the other.
Yeah, and have done things
that
you would ultimately, regret or try to move away from. Make better choices, right? Stuff like that. It's interesting.
The domain has as yet been unable to rescue the 3,000 ISBs of the Expeditionary Force Battalion either. They are forced to inhabit biological bodies on Earth. We have been able to recognize and track most of them for the past 8,000 years. However, our attempts to communicate with them are usually futile, as they are unable to remember their true identity. So maybe this is like what explains the like abduction phenomena.
Yeah.
Is that it's these like domain ISBs being abducted and trying to like, they're like trying different ways to like restore the memories, right?
Oh, yeah. That's interesting.
That doesn't explain the breeding programs though.
Well, those could also be like people who are like they're trying to experiment with maybe a quicker way to get people to rediscover their true being.
Interesting. Like maybe if they can come up with a different form of the human for the ISBs on this planet to incarnate into,
it may make it the different hardware.
It can promote the memory.
Yeah.
Restoration.
Interesting.
The majority of lost members of the Domain Force have followed the general progression of Western civilization from India into the Middle East, then to Chaldea and Babylon, into Egypt through Acacia, Greece, Rome, into Europe, into the Western Hemisphere, and all around the world. The members of the Lost Battalion and many other ISBs on Earth could be valuable citizens of the domain, not including those who are vicious criminals or perverts. Unfortunately, there have been no workable methods conceived to emancipate the ISBs from Earth. Therefore, as a matter of common logic, as well as the official policy of the domain, it is safer and more sensible to avoid contact with the ISB population of Earth until such time as the proper resources can be allocated to locate and destroy the old Empire force screen and amnesia machinery and develop a therapy to restore the memory of an ISB.
And maybe we accelerated their time clock by capturing some of them. So maybe that 5,000 year that timeline that they gave, maybe that's accelerated based on other factors, like, hey, maybe we should go there a couple thousand years sooner, like, and maybe little things chip away at that.
You suggested either the last episode or the one before, maybe that's what the 2026, 2027
I was gonna go there,
thing is.
Yeah, maybe that's like this moment where the screen, that this force screen is like unavailed, and we are able to remember. At least, you know, maybe they'll figure out a way out to like slowly trickle it in or something. But either way, you know, we'll get to that point. Seemingly, maybe.
That's the end of the chapter. This is a pretty good one, huh?
It's very good. Yeah, I like how where it's going, because it's great conversation starters on like this stuff. Like whether you believe this person is an alien or not, like. It's like the 3-body problem, like, and just like putting yourself in that mind space to like think those thoughts and like
and to like reiterate like what's his name from Area 52?
Oh yeah, Chris Ramsey.
Chris Ramsey says at the beginning of all his videos, you know, if you can suspend your disbelief, like we're not asking you to believe these things that we're reading, right? Like it's. Because the chances that this is like 100% accurate is probably very low.
Yeah.
If not almost zero. But like that doesn't necessarily mean that
has no value.
The information within it has no value or can't give you context or inspiration later in life.
Right. Of course it does.
Or have some sort of applicability. And also, the more I dive into like the UFO topic, and you hear about things like psyops and whatnot, the whole art of misinformation and conducting a psyop is not to completely portray an 100% lie.
Right.
Because that's hard to do.
Yeah, you got to have some truth in there too.
Instead, what you do is you keep a big chunk of the truth, but you throw in some crazy.
Yep.
And because you threw on some crazy, it makes it so that sensible people just throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Because they'd rather not deal with the crazy stuff, yeah.
And so I think the inoculation against a psyop is to go into a topic and allow it to wash over you without necessarily committing to belief or not. And that way, later on, when more things, more data points, more information, more experience comes into your life, you might make connections that you otherwise wouldn't have had you not exposed yourself to that information. So,
yeah, I mean, that kind of brings me to like back to like almost like our first couple episodes where we were kind of like introducing ourselves and our like, and how like not out of my control. I was never really like indoctrinated into any of the religions. Like I was very young when we left the church.
Right.
And I was never like, other than a few times going to like, church with buddies or something like that, and like it kept me like I could inject or ingest some of that information without it like changing everything about me, everything about the information I use on a day-to-day basis.
Right. Whereas like when we left the church as a family, for me, I was older and
it had become a big part of your life.
Yeah. Well, and when I left it with a fury, right? Yeah. And like I threw the baby out with the bathwater.
On
like,
all of that stuff. Yeah.
Right. And I think there is real truth and wisdom in there, but like just because you don't want to be involved in a church or you don't necessarily identify as a Christian anymore doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't truths there.
Right. And absolutely. I think there are like I ascribe myself as to like I believe in some sort of God, but I'm not a religious person.
Right.
Like I don't ascribe to any one religion.
Right. I'm not going to let some like group organization that defines what is and isn't true.
Yeah.
Like define the structure of what I do and don't believe.
Yeah. Or the relationship therein that I develop with said God that I believe in. Right. Because it changes your ability to have those like moments.
Well, and honestly, it goes back to what she was saying earlier in the book about responsibility and
for your own actions.
And honestly,
and stuff,
I think it goes back to like libertarianism and stuff. And like the reason we don't have like an anarchist society is because people aren't willing to take responsibility for their own freedom.
Yep.
Right. And in a similar way,
which
like
means
if you're not willing to take responsibility for your own beliefs, and you want to just follow what, like, this person has an explanation, and that person has an explanation, and that person has an explanation. I'm going to pick one and go for it and just commit to it. Like, that seems like you're passing the responsibility for your own beliefs onto someone else.
Yep.
And I feel like if you're not ready in this point in your life to do the investigatory work to, like, see which of these traditions speak to you or come up with your own synthesis, then maybe just like leave it be. Don't join a church. Like don't join an organization. Like don't commit yourself to someone when you're not willing to do the work to see what you actually think about
the information and stuff. Yeah.
And similarly, like, don't just like say this society or this government I'm a part of is the best because I'm a part of it.
Right.
Right. Like,
yeah, you got to have some humility in it.
Totally.
And open yourself up to different aspects of
it's personal responsibility, like it talks about. And
I really agree with that. And that also means your thoughts and your personal, private thoughts and what's going on in your head at any given moment.
To have personal responsibility is to accept that we are flawed, imperfect beings, and it is to take account for your mistakes.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people would rather put those mistakes on something else or shove them under the rug and just join a system that allows them to claim themselves as good or bad based on following the rules of the system.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're ergo giving away your responsibility.
The control of it all. Yeah. You're saying I am bad because I didn't follow these rules. Well, did you set those rules for yourself, or did somebody else set those rules?
Those rules? Do those rules make sense? What philosophy are they
applied to your actual life?
What's the ethics of them? Right. Who was hurt? And how? And anyway,
yeah,
we could go on forever.
Food for thought, for sure. That was a great chapter, and I'm excited for the next one. So appreciate y'all hanging out.
Give a little teaser for the next chapter.
What's the title?
The next chapter is a timeline of events.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be exciting.
I read through this already, and it's got like a whole bunch of dates, and it highlights specific moments in history, but like from their perspective. So it's pretty cool.
Cool. All right, y'all. Thanks for hanging out with us this week. We are going to be posting this on Tuesdays. We usually post on Tuesdays, sometimes Wednesdays if we're lagging a little bit, but it'll be out Tuesday. You can check us out on Facebook and Instagram. That's where we'll post our weekly releases and let you all know. And you guys can, if you guys like the show, please like and subscribe, whatever podcast platform you guys are on, whether it be Apple, Spotify, rate us, review us.
Yeah, so if you're on Apple, you can give a review to the podcast itself.
Yeah.
If you're on Spotify, you can give comments and reviews on the episodes.
All of that helps us get a little bit more exposure and get some more eyes and get a bigger community. We've got some more comments coming in. We love it all.
Yeah. And write in, let us know, what did you think about what we talked about today? What are your opinions?
Yeah.
Like, what do you think?
What does it bring to mind?
We'd love to engage everyone in conversation. We hope you join us for that.
Please. Yeah. And if you're just listening, we do have a video format for this podcast too as well. If you guys want to check us out on YouTube or Rumble, like, subscribe, comment, all these things, same on that platform. So yeah, hang out. Also, dualitycheck.net. Check out our website. It's got everything you'll need, all the links, all the descriptions, everything, all the tags. You can email us at host@dualitycheck.net or comment wherever you're at. So with that said, we'll see y'all next week.
All right.
Later.
Bye.